I'll give references to anything I refer to later if anyone wants them, by Daniel Simpson, who's a yoga scholar at the Center of Oriental and African Studies in London. And it's interesting, I always thought, he disputes whether union is the accurate translation for yoga, because that's always what I took it to be. But he does say that the word yoga comes from a Sanskrit word, basically where we get the word yoke in English, joined together. And I thought, well, whatever it is, it's about connection, that everything does connect on some level. So as Heather said, I've been studying a lot of yoga, but that's the I suppose, the unexpected consequence of getting involved in vocal yoga. 5 years now, so I've been a vocal yogi for 5 years. In fact, I have a lot of anniversaries this year. 8 years as a voice teacher, 20 years as a public speaking teacher, and 30 years teaching something or another. I was recruited in kindergarten, I like to say, but anyway, I don't want to look at those numbers. But I think more and more how everything fits together. And, my mother is an educational psychologist, and she always used to teach me as a little boy. She's right from an early age, I was drilled with intelligence seeks connection. So that's one of the themes, that things fit together. So yes, I have been studying all kinds of yoga, and I'll give you an example actually of how vocal yoga I think connects with everything I do. So that's Heather. You can now know that I would say that my first identity as a voice teacher is probably a vocal yogi, because I can see that it touches everything else. So I study a lot of voice systems too. So I've got David here. David is, you can wave, David is my Lessac world bestie, and we've studied Lessac kinesics together. I've been studying the Estill voice model, which I'm going to make a little mention of one thing today. And I've been studying Knight Thompson's Speechwork. Some of you might know that, which actually I was always wanting to do, but Heather was the one who said you were in Greece, and I think we were having a voice geeky conversation about vowels and consonants, and Heather looked at me and she said, Bruce, you have to do the Knight Thompson work. So I found another sangha of people who like to talk about vowels and consonants, but I found an intersection of speech work and vocal yoga that I never saw coming. So we're going to do that in part 2, and that's a lot of fun. That's why we've got a 10-minute breakout room. So I'm going to get you being a little bit creative there. For those of you, if anyone teaches actors here, this is a great fun thing to introduce some ideas to early on in their training. But the example I wanted to give you before was, for example, restorative yoga. I don't know if anyone's done restorative yoga. The aim of restorative yoga is very deep relaxation. So you use a lot of props, very, very long times in most asanas. And I did a restorative yoga training just really to access that sense of relaxation. And I never thought it would intersect with vocal yoga. And then when I had to do my little practicum, we just, it was just a sort of a mini teaching excerpt. I thought, well, I can bring vocal yoga to this. And as one of my areas I mentioned is, one of my specialties is the anxious public speaker. So I also read a lot about anxiety. I'm very, very interested in the things that switch people into parasympathetic nervous system area. And I got people doing downward facing Shavasana, sort of supported, some of them had blocks, humming into the ground to begin with. Now, we're not going to do that today, but it was a wonderful thing to have up your sleeve for people who are so nervous to vocalize. And I think we all seek out the voice. But it's important to remember that some people, especially people who have been traumatized, find the notion of even humming can actually intimidate some people. So they have this little cave where the sound reverberates back to them, and they have a sense of privacy to do that. It's actually a wonderful starting point for people who really thought, oh, I'm very nervous about using the voice. In fact, on my recent Hatha training, contemporary take on Hatha, we had a specialist come in to talk about trauma, or you might say trauma, I think in US English would do, informed yoga. And she said, oh, we don't do any vocalizing because people are nervous to do it. And I thought, oh, maybe there is a way around that. So that's on my list. Now, I'd like to say today, by the way, everybody, anyone wants to ask me a question at any time, just jump in or put up your hand, maybe not in the chat because that will throw me, but I absolutely don't mind anybody waving and saying, can I ask something? So today I'm going to share a few things which I have found nourishing, connect with vocal yoga. I'll do a little sequence based on what I did for my recent practicum for my yoga training. They were very open-minded, these people, and they embraced vocal yoga. I also did a training session with the students there as well. And then we have our speech meets vocal yoga, which is a lot of fun. You don't really have to do a speech. And Linda, I'm going to say to you, you might want to add, because I'm doing the most basic breathing thing at the end. I've devised this as something as a beginning point for people who are very, very unused to any conscious voice or breathing work. And of course, you have such great expertise in this area. So it's a very, very much sort of on one hand, a beginner's approach to thinking about breath, but I also find that it's got a more advanced application as well when we're preparing for a speech. So it's very, very simple. And, I would say I was reflecting on everything I've learned teaching over the last years. And you know how when we learn just about anything in our culture, you have beginners, and then, you go to intermediate, and then you do advanced. And there's always this thing that, the idea that we would all accept as implicit is that it gets more complicated. Everybody would expect an advanced textbook, for example, to be much more complicated than a beginner's. Now, what I think is interesting about my journey as a voice teacher over these years is as I get more experienced teaching anything, I think what I do gets simpler. So the hours I work on something, I learn how to make the instructions simpler. And I suppose we always have to remember that what's very special about working with the voice is that we are tapping into something that we were born with. And there's not many things we can say that we teach that. But I always say to people, you came into this world really not knowing how to do very much. You could grab onto something, you could suck on something, but you could make a big sound. You could make a big open sound. And so we're actually learning to access something that ultimately that really we always had. Now, before I do a little warm-up sequence, well, it's an introductory sequence. I'm going to share two of my favorite quotes with you. Now, these are not from voice people, but they are, I think, two of my absolute guiding principles. So one of them is from Shunryu Suzuki Roshi. Some of you might know him. He's a Japanese master Zen teacher. I think he passed actually in the 1970s, but he's considered one of the great Zen Buddhism teachers of the last century. And he said, so the secret is to just say yes and jump off from here. Then there is no problem. It means to be yourself, always yourself, without sticking to an old self. And I think that's a wonderful thing when people are going and thinking, oh, by the way, I can send these out later if anyone's worried about getting them down, or we'll put them in the chat. I'll send an email if there's any quotes you want or anything like that. Sometimes when people try something new, they think, oh, this isn't me. We might have made an identity out of our habit. So, people say, I've got a quiet voice, or I've got a loud voice, or a squeaky voice. And they say, well, none of us really has a quiet voice or a loud voice. We have a habit that we use it in that way. And if we have an open mind that we can do something different, we don't have to change the sense of who we are. So I just think that can be very, very reassuring when people are thinking, oh, I never make a sound like that. Say, well, let's just try something else. You're still you, but you're not stuck to being absolutely what you've always been or what you've always done. Now, the other one, and this, I just think this is for anything that involves the body, which of course the voice does, because the voice touches on all our being, on the mind, the brain, the soul, the spirit, whatever word you'd like to call it, and of course the physical body. Enter into your own body. There you'll find a solid place to put your feet. And that's from Kabir, who was a renowned mystic from India, in, I think, 15th century, 15th, 16th century, revered by both Hindus and Muslims, which is quite an achievement, I think. So it's a wonderful, I think that's just a wonderful quote, and all my yoga people always respond to that so well. To think, okay, I'm going to step in today, even when you might not feel like it. So we'll begin, everyone. Now, I'll give you the context. Context is everything, I think, in learning and in teaching. So here I'm thinking of people, particularly who are nervous to speak in public. So I'll give you that, and you might find things useful. But in fact, any of us can do it. And Heather, you'll find it interesting. I was looking back over all my notes. I've got notebooks and notebooks from all the times I've been to vocal yoga, and I found notes that I'd forgotten that inform what some of the things we do now. So you see, that's a sign you've learned something. You know, in fact, they say that there's an old saying, I forget the speaker of this, has said, education is what remains when you've forgotten everything you've been taught. So meaning it's there in muscle memory. Do you know what I mean? So to begin with, everybody, now we're going to do, you can stay seated today. In fact, I don't have a very good setup to get you on the mat. I'm just moving my stool back a little bit. All right. And I might have to sometimes adjust my computer so you can see me. Accessible yoga, by the way, I'm going to do a plug for accessible yoga. Those of you in the US, they are the most wonderful group of people. Wonderful man, Juvana Heyman, who founded it. And some of the people who connected with it have really, I don't know if anyone has heard of a woman called Diane Bondi. I've been using her book. They're people who see yoga as belonging to everybody. Even people in wheelchairs can have a very meaningful experience of yoga. And Juvana's interesting. He's very open to using the voice. He will add, so I said, oh, you're gonna have to meet Heather sometime. He lives in Santa Barbara, and they run a lot of courses, and they have a lot of wonderful workshops too. I've done things on yoga and social activism, and you know, all sorts of applications of yoga. I've done one on race agitation, on making a contribution to diminishing white supremacy. So they really have a very interesting, inclusive approach to yoga on every single level. And I'm going to do one little thing inspired by Juvana in this sequence here. So to begin, everyone, just make sure you're thinking upward. I've learned not to say sit up straight because the spine is never straight. And I think I learned that from Heather, first of all. But anyway, everywhere I go, I find I've learned something from you, Heather. In fact, I've got to be careful I'm not a paid for student in the class. I'll just actually, before I begin, I'll say I'm learning sound healing from the Academy of Sound Healing in England, Voice for Sound Healing. And I couldn't help myself. I had to say something in the material. The teacher, who's wonderful, or this was on the video, actually, he's not one we're actually learning from right now, but it was the video material. And he says, have a glass of water to lubricate the vocal folds. Water can't pass your vocal folds or we would drown. So to say you have to hydrate before. Doing it before is that's not gonna wet the vocal folds. But you know, I just gotta bite my tongue sometimes because you don't want to be that student, do you? But anyway, in fact, I said it very nicely and tactfully, and they were very grateful for it. So anyway. Okay, ahimsa, I think. I know for those of you who know yoga, you know, I know that pranayama and asana are a big part of vocal yoga. And I'm now thinking, now that I'm studying yoga more, what about the other limbs and how do they apply? And certainly ahimsa, do no harm with our voice. Think consciously that I will not harm anybody with my words. It's quite a nice way to think about communication as well. So I think now you can use any mudra you like, but a wonderful settling mudra I discovered recently is the Dhyana mudra, or I don't know if it's Dhyana. I'll show you up this way, everybody. Okay, take your left hand and then put the back of your right hand onto it and then put your thumbs together. Now you're not going to hold up like that, but that's basically how it goes. And then just rest, I find it's really lovely, just rest that sort of between your legs. But if anyone would prefer, you know, to do another mudra, Gyan mudra or anything like that, that's the thumbs together, then that's fine. But I find this is a very nice, calming mudra for people, especially people who have never done a mudra. They seem to relax into this very, very easily. All right. So let's just sit. Close your eyes if you want to. And I've become aware that not everybody finds closing their eyes comforting. People who have had severe threats to their safety sometimes are not comforted by that. So it's worth remembering. I learned that in my trauma-informed yoga, always make closing eyes optional. There are people who will feel unsettled by having their eyes closed in public. Now, what I'd like everyone, I'm trying to learn not to say what I would like, because it's not about what I would like. So my invitation is go back in your mind, find a place that feels safe for you. So, don't attach a memory to anyone or anything that might, pain. So I'll use your wisdom for that. And imagine a smell that is wonderful. Both fragrance is beautiful, but the place also makes you feel very, very happy. So maybe somebody loved baked something for you. I remember my mother watering the tomatoes in the summer. That smell was on that. Maybe scent of the pine or the hibiscus or the lavender or the lilac or honeysuckle or anything you could just walk in, or just the smell of the sea or the freshness after the rain. So just settle into it and breathe in that fragrance through your nose very slowly. So you're inhaling, savoring the inhale. So it's quite different to maybe sniffing a picked flower or a perfume. You've got a sense of connection with all the atmosphere around you. It's actually in Qigong called feeling the fragrance. And just observe what your breath's doing. You observe it dropping down. Feel your belly rising out a little bit and your ribs opening up. We're not forcing. Now, after you've got that in your, on the sound of everyone just hum with how. On the exhale, another. That is so delicious, beautiful. So just let those hums come in. Now, make a comment. That is the most delicious thing I've ever smelled. So let's just do that. Now we're going to lead on first. We've got 3 vowels, oo, ah, and e. So let's hum a few times and then let out a moo. So let's go. Moo. We do that. Let's do that twice. In fact, everybody, does everyone want to, if you'd like to unmute so we get a sense of intoning together, that would make it quite nice. If you know what, I think you're too self-conscious. So yeah, unmute, we can hear that. And then one more. Lovely, everyone. Then let's go. Ma. Ma. So. And then let's go to P. Sorry, if we keep this, it doesn't matter if we wash over, it doesn't matter, it's not important. Me. Lovely, everybody. We'll just let that, on your last exhale, tell that off. And we're going to be coming back to those sounds. I meant to say earlier too, this is a journey. I often call this workshop vibrations, and it's part of my course, The Voice of Calm. So it's a sort of series for speakers who feel nervous to get up and speak. We all do sometimes. I did a little bit this morning facing Sangha. I thought I wanted to, useful to everybody. So we've got on a journey, you need a compass. So our compass today, that's my image. Okay, our compass is basically, how does it feel? So we're always asking, how does this feel from within? So we always prioritize the feeling of the process rather than the sound that we're making listening to it. And we have signposts go with the compass, and they are comfort and ease. So we're looking, so what feels better? What feels more comfortable? That's always, I think, a good question to come back to. And your wisdom, your internal wisdom and your internal vocal intelligence are going to guide you there. Okay, so it's not about maybe achieving I would say to people, not about achieving a set sound you have in your mind. I think we're going to do that. So let's let our arms, let's do a little bit of helium arms. So just now, I know you can't see my just yet. All right. So we're going to lift now. You can't see my whole arms. You've got two choices and you can alternate. So you can rise them up with your palms up and then you go down the other way. Or some people like to rise with the backs and then turn the palms out and come down. Okay, so we'll breathe, we'll exhale up. So we'll maybe do this 3 times, but I'll just demonstrate first. So breathe in till you feel you're comfortably at the top of your exhale. You don't push it. So we'll breathe, we'll inhale. And then something like, oh, you're getting into the loveliest jacuzzi or something, or you put down, you put your feet up one day. So let's breathe in, everybody. You can suspend at the top for a moment if you like. And let's do one more. Feeling good? Now, I'm going to confess to you something, everybody, and this is why I am a trained Kundalini yoga instructor. My confession is I'm not counting that as my main teaching identity, because it's a little bit like a religion that's too constricted for me. I'm more of a sort of Quaker Unitarian kind of person. And it's a little bit prescriptive, and I am breaking a rule. You are not supposed to, when you finish your training, you sign something saying you will never put any Kundalini moves in any other form of yoga. So that's why I have to not count myself as one of the tribe now, because I'm going to do that. So I'm going to steal things from it. But this is I mean, we're going to do the silent version first, but it's a wonderful little thing to do when you're a little bit tense and you want to get settled for meditation. It's from a Kriya, I think, balancing prana apana, Nabi Kriya for prana apana, I think Kriya it's called. Now, can everybody see? Actually, I'll move back a little bit. So you see me like that. Okay. Oh, I'm sweating. Oh. All right. Now, what we do is I'll demonstrate, we squeeze in like we've got an incredible weight and we release it. So I go, just let it out. So let's do that silently. So you imagine you use all your muscle, and then when you get to your chest, you just release it. Okay, so we won't do sound now, but we're going to come to that. Okay, so let's do that 3 times, everybody. So inhale and then squeeze it. Yeah, let it out. Just, make a sound if you want to, actually. And one more time.
Eddie, stop. Don't go over there.
Now, would anyone like to ask anything while we're doing that? Anytime, please feel free.
Down.
Okay. Yeah, is that all right? Okay, now this time, everybody, we're going to do.
Teddy, don't go there.
Somebody got a question? I could hear somebody
Sorry.
talking. Is that okay? All right. Oh, so someone else in the background. Okay, so back to our okay. And so we've got our vowels. So we've got moo, ma, mi. Okay. Now I would say start your hum. Don't dig in the basement, as David and we have our wonderful Lessac Practitioner, Nancy Krebs says, don't dig in the basement, meaning not straining in your lower, but maybe in the slightly lower part of your hum, and we're going to contrast that with slightly higher after. Okay, so I'll just demonstrate. We're going to do moo, ma, mi. So we might. So I'll for the first one. I'll go. So when you let out, you find that it's actually quite a nice release. So let's try that, everybody. Okay, let's do moo. Yep, and just let your exhale run. Let's strain you. We're not trying to hit a note or do anything like that. Okay, okay. Let's do each one 3 times. So. One more move. Okay, now ma. So let's do ma. One more ma. And let's do 3 B's, okay? Now, we'll just explore something, everyone, that I noticed. It's easy, and I became aware of this, so I thought we could actually use this to demonstrate something. It's easy when you're using the thing, of course, because you're putting a lot of, you put a lot of resistant effort into the weight, and it's easy to, I think, slightly constrict when you do that. So I noticed when you go up, so go up in your pitch. You don't have to go, you're not aiming to get to the very top of it. You don't have to hit the sky. But so if we started on, say, you might like to go to, so you're feeling it sort of higher up, vibrating the head a little bit, and see if you can get a sense. We don't have any constriction there. So let's just do one of each for that. So we'll do one moo, one ma, one mi. Okay? All right. So let's go on ma, but a bit higher. Okay. All right. We'll do ma this time. Oh goodness, I went to, yeah, I went into falsetto there. Okay, so anyway, that's just so that is a Kundalini, I have vocal yoga sized Kundalini move. So I don't know what Kundalini people that, but it's just wonderful to let that out, to sort of, like, especially when you've got a bit of tension to use up, let that out on the sound is a wonderful feeling. All right, now I bet everyone here, if you've done any yoga, would everybody say, everybody will have done cat-cow? So would that be right? Now, has anyone ever stopped to think? Now, of course, in fact, I've got a source here to quote you. Wonderful book, Healing Power of the Human Voice by James D'Angelo, who I think is American but lives in Britain. And he often gets quoted in sound healing circles. And I just thought I'm going to go look at M. I think M is very, very significant consonant, because I sort of see it a bit like a vocal banda, that because our lips are together and we're engaging the nasal passages, I think that's why it's in my theory, why it's in om, And in so many spiritual traditions it reverberates right through our skull. We feel that as a very, very positive vibration. And it's in so many significant words. Mama. So many languages have M, mama. And think of things like money, or think of yum, yum. In French, that they do it twice. That's miam, miam in French. So it's a very, very interesting sound. And he says this consonant is above all about feeling or conveying deep contentment. It is heard in humming, a sing-song prolongation of the sound, or an affirmation and acknowledgement when sounded as in short bursts. And it's also interesting that I tested this. I wasn't sure. I can't source this one. If you say like that's really delicious, and then speak from there, most people will land on roughly their central speaking note. Quite a useful. So I've got people in classes to go, hello. And I find that they find a very, very comfortable area of their voice, but it's an organic instruction. If I said to you, okay, could you say hello on your central note? I don't think that's an instruction that most people will be able to follow organically. So anyway, everybody, seated cat cow. Now I know I'm not a very good setup to show. So just see, so you've got text on your sitting bones. Now you know what cat cow looks like on the mat. For those who don't, arch up, at head goes up to cow. So what we can do is swivel from your lumbar spine. You can act, and I've got my hands on my thighs. You can swing up and down, back and forth like this. So you can do this in a plane. It was a revelation. I had just never thought that cow would be seated. But Duvina Heyman himself added sound, and I've run with that and taken it even further. So meow, everybody. You're gonna meow on cat, and we are going to moo on cow. Now I can hear Heather's wonderful. Heather did us wonderful. I'm a little elf. I'm a big old troll. I'm a little elf. And we would do that back and forth. Does Heather remember that? Am I remembering that right, Heather? And then we get a lovely, we balance our resonance. So then to meet in the middle. Now, meow is an entire journey around the universe of the human vocal apparatus, because we have at the front we begin with. So we have our closed lips. We're engaging nasal sounds. E is the most close position of the tongue and the most forward in the mouth. It's cardinal vowel 1. And then R is the lowest position of the tongue and the farthest back. So you see, ER is a whole journey through the entire mouth. And then OO, ow, gives us lip action. So who would have thought that meow was such an absolutely universal experience in expression? And then we have moo. So think of everybody, let's do our meows, have fun with this. This is great, by the way. You might think, oh, people are going to feel really embarrassed. Well, it sort of feels so silly. People crack up and then they let go of a lot of their self-consciousness. So I have people say, do that, and everybody's just falling around. So whether it's a yoga class or a voice class. Now there's one thing I'm going to add an instruction that Juvena did it. In a yoga class, you will generally, correct me if I'm wrong, yoga teachers here, you will exhale on, you will inhale arch to cat and then exhale out on cow. Now, the thing is, we all know, or you probably know, phonation is exhalation, with very rare exceptions in human culture. There are languages with sounds made on inhale, but they're very, very unusual. So you can't really go straight to it. You've got to let yourself breathe, make the sound, and then breathe again. Does that make sense to everybody? So I say, yeah, leave unmuted, because let's make, this is a bunch of cats in the alleyway. So we go, okay, so. You don't have to go that high, but it's fun to think we're going to go up and down our pitch range. So go. And let's feel that coming like right from the bottom of your belly. Imagine that sounds there. So is everybody ready? So shall we go to, so let's inhale and cat arch, okay? Let's go back quicker, everybody. So we'll just do this like a speed up. So we might go meow, moo, meow, moo, meow. Let's go with that. Okay, your turn. All right, everybody did that. So it's hard for people once they've done that together. It's quite a good antidote for self-consciousness, because once we've made that, in fact, I had a yoga teacher who was sitting in the guy. She said, I almost couldn't do it because I was laughing so much. But it's very liberating to think I can just be as crazy as that. But I think it is, on a serious vocal level, it's a wonderful balancing of both pitch and resonance. To do that very, very high-pitched meow, and then to feel your absolutely deepest tones on moo, and again, all your articulators are put into action there on some level. Now, I'm just checking the time, everybody. Okay, no. Now, David might have something to add here, but I want to just say one more thing. So this is what I would put in my little course about calm, okay? And I always say, let's think of that as coming from within. So we access our calm rather than put calm on us. In fact, I had a friend who's a very advanced vocal user. I'm going to introduce her to vocal yoga. But she said she suffered from very bad anxiety as a child, was kind of considered a highly strung child. And she's learned to deal with it in modern life, in adult life. But she said that the word calm was often weaponized against her. Now, will you calm down? And everybody, this is what shows that when you have human beings in your trust, we have to stay thinking about all the needs they might. I've gone out of my way to, in fact, I meant to say my pronouns are he and him, and to acknowledge all the different sorts of people having a class. And I had to be honest, that was a revelation. I never thought that would be a word that possibly had a negative connotation to people. So that's very interesting, isn't it? Anyway, so I say, yeah, we're going to access it from within. Now, those sounds, I harked back in my mind to my second certification that Jenny and David were on. And you might remember I'm very interested in the sacred powers of vowels and consonants, and different spiritual traditions and communities have different meanings ascribed to them. It's a lot that shine through, and I found from now Stuart Pearce, who wrote this book, The Alchemy of Voice. He used to be the vocal coach at the Globe Shakespeare Theatre in London. Now he's into a very sort of the very, very spiritual realm of voice. I love this book. He might be a bit woo-woo for some people, but I found a lot of very wonderful things in it. And he's very interested in chakra toning with vowels. But I found a wonderful, let's say, a wonderful set of values ascribed by the Pueblo people of New Mexico. Now, I have to say, everybody, with respect to the Pueblo people, I am trusting Stuart Pearce's recollection of this. I do not have direct access to these people, so I can't be 100% sure whether they would agree with what he said. But I just need to read you these, okay, on the meanings of the sound that we've been doing. So they say ooh, they see ooh as connecting us to the presence of the divine. Now, I would encourage everybody, think of that in any way you like, whether you have an actual faith, or whether you just have a sense of spirituality. And if you don't have those consciously, I would say think of the highest end of your consciousness. Whatever the divine is, I'd say make that your highest consciousness, whatever that might be. Then is washing to cleanse the spirits. You think, as we were doing. It says that, the cares of my day are washed away. And now I know you say bath in American English, but when we say, so Marianne, you'll think too, we like us say bath, and washed. The word catharsis in Greek, it's actually still the word in modern Greek for cleaning your house, believe it or not. It meant, that was what in ancient Greek drama, to wash yourself clean. You went to the drama and the tragedy washed your negative feelings away because you could sort of get them out of your system. And then E, and David's going to be thinking about this too, E is clarity, connecting us with divine intelligence, which, as you can see, fits very much within E and the chakra associated with it in yogic theory. Okay, so what we're going to do now is a little bit of Lessac work, why buzzing. Now, David, you might have something to add. I'm going to invite you. This is going to be a very, very basic introduction to the why buzz, but I have found 2 connections to why buzz that they don't teach you in Lessac, which I think Lessac people would love to know. Remember I said my theme was things connect, things join together, and that's why vocal yoga is a wonderful system, because you're always looking for how things go together, and it gives you so many options. Now, I will quote you from the Kundalini Teacher's Manual. I know I've confessed I'm breaking the rules by doing that exercise with you before. Anyway, don't tell anyone. Okay, now, because they say nad, you might notice nada, so sound yoga, the nad meridian points of the upper palate. Okay, I can't explain this because I'm not enough of an expert on it, but get this, everyone. Okay, there are 84 meridian points located on the hard palate of the roof of the mouth. 32 pairs of points are located on the hard palate surface, directly behind and along the inside of the teeth. So that's the gum ridge, that's the alveolar ridge. Now, we're going to make a vibration there. Lessac people will tell you that why buzzing calms you down. It does all sorts of wonderful things, brings your tone forward, tends to relax pharyngeal tension. There are many, many things that it does, but it's amazing to think that there is yogic theory that associates vibration in that area of the mouth as being something that is spiritually enriching. So because there's no doubt when you're feeling a bit nervous, and you can white buzz in the wings if you're performing, you can do it very, very quietly. So David, can you, I'll start. If you want to throw anything in, I'm going to say, because David's on his way to becoming a fully fledged Lessac trainer. I'm a designated practitioner, but I've sort of passed my next stage of development to slightly different directions. All right, now I think a nice place to start is think of a bristle of excitement, like, oh yeah, okay. If everybody thinks, just get something, you think, yeah. Everyone there? Okay. Oh, I like to think that you've just got this energy pulsing, and you go, yes. Okay, let's try that, everybody. Yes. So think of that why, like, this is just the beginning in. Yes. I'm going to try that. Yes. Now, think you're so excited that you're adding extra Y's. So you're going, yeah. So try that. Yeah. Okay, you can unmute if you want, everybody. Why don't we just make lots of sound? I mean, I think I won't do that with my public speaking workshop necessarily, first of all, but okay. All right, now, let's run those together. And so we'll go, lips slightly pursed helps, just a little bit. You don't, just, now, absolutely, it's not important to worry about how you sound. Can everyone just feel a tickle on the gum ridge? That's the main thing, okay? That you feel this. How's that? David, can I spotlight you? Would you like to add anything?
No, you're getting everything. Perfectly.
David is one of my besties, but I thought he would tell me, like, okay. A wonderful activity with wide buzzing is to take it into vowels, because it does loosen everything up without you having to think about it. Because you know how relax can be a very, very difficult organic construction. It comes to relax, don't be so uptight, relax. Most of us don't, do we? You know what I mean? And if you say, relax your throat, relax. And I was in the dentist, Steve, and I was having they said, relax your tongue. And I thought, I'm a voice teacher, and that's actually kind of, what do I do? But if you just think, I just think I'm going to, that's the, you find that other things do relax. So let's go ye. So we'll do our same vowels. Ooh, we'll do ooh, ah, e, and then we'll just continue on the e a little bit. So I'll demonstrate, and then we'll do it together, everybody. So let's try that, everybody. Yes, nice. I can hear that. Nice. And let's do ya. Thing, cleansing the heart, everybody. In fact, I put the M on my chest and feel that there. Okay, nice. Heart chakra. I'll just pause for a minute. When I was in my second certification, I was very, very sick. I nearly had pneumonia, and Heather got me onto doing, I intoned when I was a day off, I was sick. And I think it really helped my healing. I got better very, very quickly. I had COVID in February, and this was way worse than that. Believe me. Okay, so, yeah. And then let's, okay, and then let's go to E. Lovely. Now, everyone, on another class, I'd spend longer on that. Can I just ask everybody, and please feel free to throw anything in, you feel that nice sense of the sound just blowing out of your mouth, don't you? Like it's coming out the front, and I find that when you've got that focus there, those vowels, I find, get produced very, very easily. Would anyone like to throw anything in, or David, have you got any comments, or anyone?
I have a question.
Now, who's that? I can't see. That's I'll go to gallery.
Diana. Hi, my name is.
Hi.
Hello. Really enjoying that. It feels kind of weird. It feels like a lot of vibration in my mouth, more than humming or other things. Almost like when you have not pins and needles, but or like electricity. It's like very a lot. Okay, so I might be doing it right then, because I wasn't sure. Because I felt like I was sort of pulsing my stomach to do the like. I think I'm using other parts of my vocal training. So.
I'll see what David says. Actually, Juliana, that's absolutely. It's like, I mean, I've never worn a dress over a subway, but I always feel when I first learned to wide buzz, I feel like Marilyn Monroe in The 7-Year Itch. Like, everyone knows that. You know what I mean? Like. I think it's the tickle. It's a tickle of it. So it doesn't mean that we have to feel like that when we speak from it. It just gets everything moving front, very, very organically. As for the abdomen, some people would do, like, you might go, but you actually don't need to, because the thing is, I would say if you're pulsing from the abdomen on that, you're probably putting more effort than you need to get that effect. It's not, you can just wide buzz on. And that's why, seriously, actors, singers, you can do wide buzz, not only getting everything vibrating and warm. That's a warm-up you can do nearly silently. You can stand in the stage wing and wide buzz, and it calms you down. And I have to say, if there are any parents of young children here, I comforted a baby and I wide buzzed into her, and you know what? It helped settle them. Very gentle wide buzz. You hold a baby and go, they start to key into the energy, and there's just, and now that, see, this is what I think is wonderful about vocal yoga. When I did Kundalini, oh my goodness, there is a yogic wisdom to this that maybe Arthur Lessac didn't know, but he was a brilliant man, and he studied very wide. He was more influenced by Tai Chi than by yoga, to be honest, from what I can gather. He certainly wasn't against yoga, but I don't know if Arthur Lessac had a great experience of yoga. But yeah, very good question, Juliana.
Sorry, there was a little bit more to it, sorry. It almost feels like I'm singing a vibrato, like how I would do a vibrato. I feel like maybe I'm not doing it right, unless that actually, if I started it, because usually I start my vibrato from my support, but if I were to start it from here, maybe actually, because when you said about the being connecting to God, universe, presence, it immediately activated a sort of vertical line of lift in my soft palate. So then we went from that to doing I wonder if it's a very similar placement to where you would do it. Maybe you could start a vibrato there for singing.
Heather might have to add something, or some of you singers, or Shada, or some singers in the group. I mean, it's got me singing, but I'm not a singing teacher. Remember, Y-Buzz is not about producing anything for anyone else. It's an internal work, because vibrato is something we might desire as a singer for the sound we're making. I would say, Juliana, if it feels good, Y-Buzz shouldn't feel like hard work. It's like you let that radiant energy come out of you, and it's just a wonderful, enlivening thing. But it's not work. You know what I mean? And you're not making a Y-Buzz to be heard by anyone, to have the sound judged by anyone. But I don't know, Heather, did you have any thought on that? I don't feel qualified to oh, by the way, everybody, one thing I've learned, I share this in my 30 years of teaching. When you get asked something that you really can't answer, and rather than saying I don't know, now say, that's a very good question. That's outside my area of expertise. So that's my little thing I share with everybody as to teach. It's a very, very nice way of saying, I can't really answer that maybe to the level you want. But David or Heather, would you like to add in before we go to part 2?
I just wasn't sure if I was doing it right. That was all.
Okay, Diana, if you feel, I would say this, and David, maybe get your endorsement on this. If you feel comfortable, if you're feeling comfortable and it's feeling easy, and you're feeling that tickle on your alveolar ridge, on the gum ridge, you're not doing it wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, but if you can feel the vibrations all down my throat, all the way.
Yeah, I would say if you were feeling you were working your throat, if you were feeling you were putting effort, I would say that might be wrong. But I would say if you're feeling that delicious tickle on the, and that's where we now know that nada meridians go. So I think, now the other thing I'll add too, from studying Estill, not only is, E is the most front vowel, so it bring everything forward, but Estill voice model teaches that Y leads to smooth onset. And again, I never learned that in Lessac. It's another validation of Y-Buzz that's in the Estill voice model too.
Right.
So, yeah. Heather.
I think it could build into some.
I will tell you what's happening, Juliana, and I had to do it. I didn't learn this till I started my doctorate work. When you have a really good, what they used to call placement, which is basically an ending place in where the voice is directed. Usually it's somewhere on the palate and then it radiates through the head. But when you have a really good ending place, then the air coming from below is stabilized. So that's why we have AMs. If we have sound coming into the sinuses, it gives us an end place for our air. So the sound is stabilized. I find Y-Buzz does the same thing. And when the breath, which of course turns into sound, is stabilized at the top, then vibrato naturally happens.
So that's what I thought. I thought it would be a good starting point, actually, for getting a vibrato. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, look, and Heather, I've learned more. You see, isn't it funny?
Connections. We made the connection.
And also, it's connection. Learning's onion, isn't it? Like you've learned, you know the onion, I know the vegetable, and then you find there's another layer to it that you learn, which is wonderful. So Heather doesn't stop teaching me things. David, before I go on to part 2, would you like to add anything?
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I like to think of when I'm making my Y-Buzz, if it feels like I have a little sparkler on the roof of my mouth, like on the 4th of July, and it's going crazy, that's when I know I'm hitting that placement. I'm feeling all that buzzing. So yeah, the more buzz, the better. It's establishing that tonal current so that even if you don't have when we're speaking, which of course we don't, but it helps bring the voice to that forward placement.
and it does it organically, you know. Because I said, think forward, like, you know, I mean, you can get some quite, I think that speech instructions, we have to be very judicious with as voice teachers, because they can lead to some, and I can even see this in some forms of Lessac work, they can lead to sort of affectation if they're not organic. You know, that's always one of my things, and I think vocal yoga encourages me to do this. Well, what's an organic instruction that is possible to follow? You know what I mean? I think it's, and I will often run that through my head when I'm planning something new and saying, well, what could I do that? You know, I can remember when I was very young, I was at an acting class, and the director was, the teacher was some sort of director, sort of screaming at us. We were standing there and he was saying, release, release. And we're like, what do we do? What do we do? How do I release? I'm tired. Am I releasing for you now? Do you know what I mean? I'm sure some of you have had an instructor like that where the person's barking at you, and am I doing it right? And of course, am I doing it right? Is again, to me, this is my spiritual journey I've been on with both yogas. You know, I've been reading a lot. I know it's not strictly yoga, but I read a lot of Thich Nhat Hanh and Pema Chodron, and I might finish with her quote for the day I do cards of her. And I realized that, am I doing it right is a suffocating call of the ego. You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, am I right or am I wrong? Am I good? Am I not? And I don't think that if the ego drives your vehicle, you are always looking in the back mirror rather than at the road. Do you know what I mean? You're always on, you know, you're always in a tentative position. But that's what I think is wonderful about using yoga as a vocal basis of development, that we are basically accessing and valuing a wonderful wisdom that we have from within. And so Juliana, that's what I'd say. If you're feeling it and it feels good, then you're doing it right. You know what I mean? And I would say too, and I think Heather, I got this partly from Heather and partly from Estill. My only rule, and I said this, I taught an acting class on Monday, a voice for actors class. I've been roped into New Zealand's top acting school is 10 doors from me. Can you believe, was that meant to be? So I've got a 1 minute commute to this work. And I say, my only rule is if you're doing something unsafe, I'm going to say, don't do that. But other than that, I would say I'm not about getting you to pronounce things in a certain way or make a certain sound. It depends your context and what you want. Okay. Well, everyone, now here's a fun, we're going to have a, like, I'm looking at the time. Okay, this is perfect timing. Now, this is where vocal yoga meets Night Thompson, and like I said, Heather got me onto Night Thompson, and I've got to, I'll quote my wonderful Night Thompson teacher, Andrea Caban. If you live in Los Angeles and you have a chance to live with her, she truly, I think, I do agree here that Andrea is a force of nature. She really is. She is, along with Heather, one of my favorite teachers. So Night Thompson has got a sort of a sister-brother relationship with Fitzmaurice voice work, but it's the speech component. Was founded by the late Dudley Knight and Phil Thompson, who I've done all their courses now, and I'm repeating some of them. IPA narrow transcription is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, other than algebra, and I ditched that when I could. I'm sorry, but math lost me once they added letters to it, I'm afraid. But anyway, if I can master IPA narrow transcription, I'm going to apply for certification for next year so I've got a year to study basically. But now what I made up from this, I had this idea. So they do a thing called gurning. Okay, so gurning basically, somebody might know the word. I don't think they made up the word. It's an obscure word. Yes, okay. So basically, it's a competition, not really a competition. I say that as a joke. To make the weirdest faces you can. The kind of face that my grandma would have told me if the wind changes, it would freeze like that. I never bought that shit. I got to say, even at 6, by the way, I was. But anyway, so what we'll do, I'll leave my glasses on. So everybody, now, so here's the thing. Andrea's quote, I don't know whether she made it up. It probably is one from Dudley Knight. But so this is on this principle. Change the shape of the cave, you change the sound of the echo. There is that change the shape of the cave, you change the sound of the echo. Meaning, all our apparatus here, so if you think of the voice model of power, which is our breath, source, which is what happens with the vocal folds in the larynx, and filter, which is everything else after, they're all the components that make up a sound, and they all play complex differing roles depending depending on what we're doing. Okay. What we do is we just make some weird faces, but we let's just do that for a second, because everybody. So let's just like have a play. Okay, now everyone, let out a sound. Avoid linking the sound to the face, like meaning you're not thinking I'm going to make an or something. Just let whatever sound comes out come out when we do that. Okay. Okay, everyone do that? Is that fun? Now, here's where I got the idea of combining vocal yoga and the stuff we're doing in Night Thompson. So I thought, well, then I read that there was a kind of face yoga. Now, I will be honest, I haven't done this. And I thought, what about facial asana? Now, I know that that possibly doesn't work with the term asana from its traditional meaning, because, you know, for those of you who don't know, asana is the positions that we, you know, the poses we take in yoga. Now, the word actually meant originally in Sanskrit a place to sit, which gives you an idea that yogis, apparently in ancient yoga, people sat for hours, and many even specialized in one asana that they held for hours to meditate. So I'm going to extend that a little bit. So what we're going to do in a minute, we're going to get into breakout rooms, and we're going to make up a facial asana and give it a name. Now I'll take off my glasses. So I've made up two. Okay. So the first one is called wide-eyed tropical reef fish. Okay, everybody. So now you can add hands and stuff. I think that's quite nice. And then I go, my eyes wide. And then look through. We've got that. Now let's let out a sound. Okay. Now, is everybody getting a similar sound to me? So you get, obviously with the lips like that, you get an ooh, but with that extremity, I get kind of an interesting, like a, I don't know, did anyone find an owly kind of resonance? That's what they call falsetto quality in Estill. It's a little bit different to standard perception of falsetto. But again, no correct. We just let sound come out. Now the other one, and this one I really need the glasses of. Okay, it's psycho movie clown. Okay, it's like I at that. Hey, let's everyone got that? Like really, like yeah. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so again, no right or wrong, but we get a sort of somewhere with that extremity of the spread. It's sort of between E and E. Did everybody get something like that? It's kind of a weird sort of yeah. Now, but what this teaches us is that basically everything is about shape and movement. I teach my acting students that. I said, look, when you're trying to make a sound, something somewhere is moving to somewhere in some way. So that's true whether it's your tongue in vowel creation, or whether it's your lips or your soft palate, or all the things that make consonants. All those things are moving in some way. And if we think about articulation or diction, as the other word was used, as movement, it tends to lead to, I think, a nice clarity that isn't overworked. And I think Cicely Berry, the great legendary voice teacher, puts that very good. She said, if we make articulation about muscle, we can, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I could remember people who had been to speech and drama, and they said, and we stopped and looked at the, you know, I don't know, the trees, and everything was like articulated. So you'd have these, whatever, all sort of spat at you because they were taught that they were mumbling. We weren't speaking properly, and that actually can happen, that sense of sort of overcorrection. And anyway, so everybody, let's get, okay, how many people we got? Oh, what happened to Daniela? I don't know who's gone. Okay. Oh, here's a go. Okay. Oh, he's sent me a message. He had to leave. Okay, so everybody, we've got 10. How about, what do you think? if minus 3, that's 8, shall we get into, how about we do 2 groups of, wouldn't that be good? Just maybe 2 groups of 4? Okay, so what I'll do, we'll take about, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. Maybe should we allow 5? I think 5, and then so have a little play together. And so our little challenge, our fun challenge today is design a facial asana and let the sound out. See that everybody agrees what sound is, and then when we come back, we will teach each other that asana. I had somebody doing a sloth on a wire in the active class the other day. I can't even remember what the sound was, but that was great. So have a bit of fun. Okay. People added, sometimes they added things. You can add, a position that opens you up. That's nice if it opens the ribs or does anything else. But it can be purely in the face too. And then we'll let out that sound and we'll see if it's a similar one. Okay. Do you want to put that in?
I'm making the rooms, right now.
You can maybe leave you and me out and we can just chat while they're doing that.
No, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, all right.
Is it like one asana per group?
I said one asana. Is everyone think that we don't have that much time? I've got one other thing to do after we do this, so that would be good. It's to give you a taste of it. Yeah. Like I said, great activity when you want a fun way to introduce the connection between sounding and articulation and with actors. I wouldn't run into my nervous public speakers and do this. That might just be a little bit off the wall for the first session, but actors are always game to be crazy. In fact, actors are so much easier to teach than nervous public speakers, by the way. You'd think they're going to be more advanced, but they just do whatever you get to them and they enjoy it. You know what I mean? So let's have a little play with that, okay?
All right, rooms are coming. Why are we stuck? Where's my room? Well, I didn't add myself to one.
The sound and then we can just describe it and come up with a descriptor after. Once we come up with it, we can be like, hey, this resembles this, or this feels like this, right?
Okay. Okay.
I do a few things already in my lessons where I call them the fruits, and we go through various different silly facial postures, but I feel like that's cheating a little bit, and I need to try and get away from that. But I guess maybe we can decide on whether we want to go vertical or horizontal or sagittal and take it from there. I don't know. A lot of the oohs are coming forward, a lot of the e's are going out this way. So I don't know where you want to begin. What would be?
That's a good, I like that. That's a good like foundation place to start.
Yeah.
What are your fruits? I'd love to see your fruits.
I have cucumber, which is terribly good for a standard English accent. And then we have banana, which is really good for an American. We also have suva for a French, terribly good French accent. So yeah, we have a lime and gooseberry and peachy and yeah, all sorts of facial movements and rubber face. But that's what
great.
I use for dialect. But I guess we can make some really interesting sounds, can't we? If we start really going into the depths of the vocal tract.
I was thinking that when we were just playing or whatever, I didn't really do anything kind of scrunchy, like scrunchy face.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. That's really witchy. I like that.
Like kind of like.
Yeah,
I'll throw that hot. Who wants to take the next one?
I like
Take
that.
it.
Yeah, would it be like more of a forward sound?
Yeah, really, like right here.
Yeah.
I love it. I used to do it with like imagining you're like the witch from Sleeping Beauty, and she goes like, "Eat my apple," and it goes really into the nose.
Oh yeah. Eat my
Fun.
not as familiar with the yoga side, so I don't know for asanas.
Oh, don't worry. Okay, the idea is we'll just make something. Now, David and Lynn, you've done yoga before. Do you know what an asana is, don't you?
I know what an asana is. I just wouldn't be able to say, let's do a. Oh, I could do a chair. Let's do a chair face.
No. We're not modeling on the real ones. We're making up our own. So there's no rules.
Oh, okay.
There is no position known in yoga as wide-eyed tropical reef fish. I made that up. Cloud. There is no yoga asana. So we can make up. Heather, I was just saying before you came on, it's interesting, isn't it? That pitch. Pitch is that's a good one. I like it. Okay.
So that looks like goblin.
Idea. Let's add like Home Alone's hands to that. Or what do we reckon, everybody? You reckon this could be it? So we have jaw is very far down. Lips are very rounded, but we have very, very open jaw. So that will change it from being like an ooh.
It could be like a surprise, like almost like a surprise, like a shock, like you're in a horror movie and you've seen something.
Like universal shock sign.
Actually, you know what? Nicole Kidman at the Oscars on Sunday, similar face.
It's a bug on a windshield.
At the incident, it was with it. Nicole Kidman was like,
I haven't watched it yet, but I saw that picture of her.
It's a bit like that. It's a jingle like that. Okay. Now, okay. Well, should we try that, everybody? So, did anyone else want to take over? I don't want to dictate this too much.
Heather, were you trying to say something?
Yep.
Oh, I thought Heather was trying.
Over to you.
Say something. With this posture, let's add the extending like Arthur Lessac used to have, the way you pull out hair.
Yeah.
Okay. So should we make the face and then just let the sound come and see if we're on a similar page? Everybody, reckon? Okay.
Sound is.
Okay. What we did that.
And there's two very different actually feelings of where the sound was in my head when we did it like that. Woo! Woo! And then when Heather said about moving everything forward at the front, woo! You have more of an ooh than an oh feeling.
Absolutely.
Woo! And almost like
Very French.
everything was moving forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, if we were marking that would be, we make that sound with more lip rounding. So you see, now that's brilliant if you're teaching actors. We're saying we're changing the shape, I said change the shape of the cave, change the sound of the echo. We're changing the entrance to the cave a little bit. Okay, that's at the entrance of the cave. And that changes that. So that's the whole point. It's a nice organic start to get actors to identify that by changing these shapes and moving them, that will change your sound. So later, when you've got a serious task of, for example, learning a dialect that's difficult, and you find out what sound is, maybe then you realize, I always say to them, something is moving somewhere. And that can really help people when they're trying to work out vocal tract posture to an accent. It's a really, really fun start to that. Okay, should we do that, everybody? And then we can teach, what should we call that?
Oh, that is Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman.
Okay, should we call it Nicole Kidman and Oscars plus hands?
Heather, meet her, I'll tell her.
Oscars plus hands, people will think we're about to get slapped.
That one she, Orietta.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can try that. Okay, let's try it. We got the
I
same
like calling it Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman. Is this when she lost? Is that when she did that?
No,
when she saw the slap.
When Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, they filmed her. She was like
She
completely
was like,
shocked.
falling off her chair. She went,
Yeah.
oh. I just saw a picture. I still actually haven't seen it because I'm going to watch all of the movies before I watch the Oscars.
That's how I am, Juliana. I haven't seen that.
Okay, let's try.
Oh.
Well, 1, 2, 3, that's sound. Okay. It's kind of like it's like a sort of a between ooh and ah, isn't it? A little bit like come out like
I like an sound almost.
yeah.
Oh, hey Bruce.
Oh.
I give it a tension in the back of my neck though if I'm thinking about because you're like, so I think I could need to let go of like the story
What I'll say is I think the only rule in this one is don't think about making the sound.
No,
That's
I'm
a
not.
principle.
I just mean I'm thinking about the story of her being like this.
Yeah, no.
Tensing
All right.
up, going, that's not what we're doing.
Really, Bruce, it seems like we're creating our custom shoe and we're just letting the sound fall into it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clyde Thompson.
And like I said, there's no right or wrong. It's the purpose of this is just to have a start for people to feel that principle. You know what I mean? But also too, I mean, that's as Heather, you've taught me with all the image of the bow, of the release of the bow with a voice. Like we're not forcing or pushing sound. We're always letting out sound, but that's always a healthy model of vocal use, is that we release sound. That's why I always wince at when people talk about, I got to learn projection. And it's like, anytime I hear anyone told to project, they will constrict and they will shout. Like it's really, excuse me, could you project? Oh, can everybody hear me? I'll hear that sort of thing. So it's not, it's not a useful organic instruction to tell someone to project. So this is quite a nice thing too. We're going to just let it out. Okay, Heather, should we go back in?
I will bring everybody back in. I didn't.
Okay.
The most of the breakout rooms.
Oh, should we call this what? Oscar shot. Should we just call it Oscar shot?
The Nicole Kidman. Wait, I'm a Juliana.
I like calling the Nicole Kidman.
Okay, we'll call it Nicole Kidman Oscar shot. Okay.
Okay.
With hands.
I feel like we won't understand the Nicole Kidman, but I think it just sounds nice.
Yeah, it does. It sounds more, I don't know, it sounds more posh that way.
Okay, I'll let one of you teach the group rather than me, so I'm back. Okay? All right.
Who's going to teach the group?
Someone's leading now. Who wants to go?
Are we going back to the group before we teach it?
When we go, David, do you want to do it when we go back in?
Sure.
Okay, all right. I volunteered David.
I thought you asked who had a new idea. I had one for an idea of like high school prom. I don't know why. I have no idea what I was thinking. I think it's because I have clothing here and I was thinking of a dress and I was like, well, what could the thing be? And I thought, maybe high school prom where you're sort of a bit nervous. You're sort of like, it's more of like a, I don't even know what the face.
That would be a great one, Julia, but we just got to get back in there. But that's great. That's exactly the kind of thing. Maybe. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm closing them all.
Hello, everybody. Did you have fun with that? Jenny, was that fun?
Yes.
Okay, now I didn't ask you to get a volunteer. I volunteered him. Can volunteer be a transitive verb? I suppose it can. If you've done that acting technique, transitive acting. Okay, so David, how about, do you want to tell us what our name was and then we'll get the asana and then we'll release the sound and we'll see it together. Do you want to do that?
Sure. So ours is called the Nicole Kidman. What we could all do is first imagine that we're as fabulous as she is, and then we all put. So what we're gonna do? Put your hands on your cheeks, and imagine like you're like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone, and you're just. It's like the universal sign for shock. Just like this is the universal sign showing you universal sign for shock.
But don't be shocked. 'cause
And
then you'll
have some
sense.
life in your eyes too, so that we're totally alive. And now from here, just let out a sound.
We'll just add, it was the extended title is Nicole Kidman Oscar Shot.
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's great.
Inspired by events this week, a shot that circulated of her. Yeah, she didn't have the hands. We thought that, but David, that's what they say. Unless that's a good forward. No. Okay, lovely.
Can I add?
Yes.
Can I
Juliana.
add? What I discovered is that if you play the shock, though, the emotion of shock when you do it, then you'll get tension. So don't do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, with
Because
any of these,
then you tense. So just think of more of the shape of what you're creating.
in fact, that's with all these organic things. You have to be careful. I mean, I know that that's why I adapted, even though it's got roots in Qigong. When we did smelling the beautiful fragrance, the traditional Lessac thing, which is changing a bit now, was smelling a flower. But if you go to a bunch of actors and tell them to smell, a lot of them will do. I'll get something. Look at something like this. Like they'll act smelling a flower, and that's not what you're trying to get them to do. They will act smelling the flower. And again, so we're not acting fish or psycho killer. That's just a name for the thing. So I always say, I'll give an instruction. And remember, we're not performing the asana. We're just feeling the position and letting it out. I know, because if you start thinking, oh, I've got to be, hysterical, somebody, I'm going to start, or whatever, or squeezing or something. No, absolutely not. There is no pressure to perform. Anyway, okay, who would like to give another group? Benny, do you think you can do yours?
Yes. Okay, so the title of our asana is Gene Simmons Taffy Face. So I'm gonna walk you through this. It's a two-parter. So you're going to imagine that your face is malleable and sticky like taffy, and you're going to just start by pulling at your face, maybe, and just imagine stretching. Maybe up and out, yeah, and then start with an N, like a gnocchi, like an NY, yeah, like a yeah, and then we'll add the tongue at the end. So we go into a
Like my cat.
Very nice. We'll give you yourself a hand now. Jenny, the only thing I'd add to that, actually, I might use that as a part two. The only thing I'd say about that is if we give someone a sound to think about, that changes the activity a little bit, because you're going to then start to move your filter to make that sound. But I think that's quite I still loved it. I think maybe you say first one, that actually might be quite a nice part too. I said, okay, so this time, maybe think about the sound and then think that might be to experience it from the other way around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh no, that's good. I'm so sorry for taking away everyone's experience of discovering sound. You know what? I take it back.
yeah. So you see, I think that this was, I had to share this with you because I thought these are my worlds collide. So I sort of think of actually vocal yoga and night talks are kind of like my yin and yang. You know what I mean? Kind of, this here, everything joins together. So I've got to share this with Andrea and Tyler Seipel and a few of my night Thompson. I don't know what they're gonna think of it. I don't know what you think.
One thing I want to say, Bruce, Andrea Caban's a really good friend of mine. So
What?
she's a really good friend of mine.
Oh, is she?
From the community, so she'll probably love it.
Oh, sure. You'll have to tell. I'm going to write to her anyway. So yeah, and I'll be seeing her soon. I'm repeating phonetics intensive in fairly soon, or at the end of May, beginning of June. Well, everyone, timing is going perfect. We've got one thing to finish off that we'll do a sort of a condensed version of, and I might. It's a shame actually our Filipino friends aren't here for this, because I was thinking about them, because I know that they teach people speaking. And Linda, I will love to hear. So this this activity is something I've taken a long time to develop, and it's inherently so simple, but it's made such a profound difference. So I will state now that most of you would be on the surface beyond this. You've all trained with breathing and sounding in many different ways and in different traditions. However, I have found that this is a lovely technique to use when you're preparing a really important talk and you want to just get centered and get the words. Oh, Juliana, so you had a question. I didn't miss your hand.
Actually, I think Heather was waving at you.
Oh, Heather, did you have a
I
question?
put my raised hand. That was all I was going to say.
I just wanted to say, Bruce, not everybody may know what Knight Thompson voice work is.
I don't know.
You have the book right there by any chance?
I do, hang on. Give me a second.
It's a wonderful book. It's a super, Marianne, do you know about Knight Thompson speech work? You would love it. And
But like I said, I was saying before, it's got a sort of a sister relationship with. So this is Dudley Knight's book. I'm going to, if you're absolutely new to it, I actually don't recommend getting this book in the first instance, even if I do recommend this book very, very highly. Andrea and Julie Foe, who's also taught me, Jeffrey Parker, I don't know him personally, they've written an experiencing speech guide. This is really very accessible. This is by Andrea, very easy to read with sound things that go with it. So it's basically looking at all the apparatus of how we make speech. And so like I said, that thing I said about the cave, that was something I learned from Andrea in one of her courses. That got me thinking, I'm mixing with my vocal yoga. So yeah, Heather, I'm going to write to her, say we did this today, okay? Yeah, but it's wonderful stuff. So they run a lot of courses. I do recommend them, and they're doing them online to wherever you are. That's one. Italian. It's like Daniele had to go, but in Italian there's a saying "tutto fa brodo," which means everything makes broth. Literally, you cook it up and it's a soup of life. And so one thing COVID did is it made all these courses online. I couldn't come back and forth to the US at the amount of courses I did. So I was able to get a lot of training that, so that's one blessing I could claim from not a couple of years of easy, a couple of years of easy times. Now, this thing to finish on, if we had more time, I'd let you. So say I had a group. I do a workshop called Getting the Message Across, and another one for postgraduates called Vital Speaker. They're actually the same thing. They just wanted a different name for the postgraduate one. And I inherited it many years ago. It was called the Fundamentals of Public Speaking. But as time's gone on, I've made the fundamental the speaker getting ready to speak. You guys probably think I'm going to, give you a talk on, bullet PowerPoint slides and all these things and whatever. I go much more basic. I connect with the deepest anxiety about speaking and look at ways through it. So imagine this for people who have no conscious training in voice, generally not. Every now and then I'll get somebody who's maybe studied classical singing, who's been singing lessons in their life. That's about all. Breath, I know how to breathe. I mean, I'm alive, aren't I? That would be the sort of Linda, you would have experienced that a little bit. Anyone thought why would anyone, so I will have often done what I did with you in the first sequence. I would start something like that just to get them not only letting, as we say in voice, letting the breath drop in, rather than saying breathe in your belly, which I remember still actually in India, Catherine, I remember Catherine Fitzmaurice saying, there's no air in your belly unless you've been eating beans. I remember her saying that to me, to us, very clearly on that India trip. So what I would often do is they might have brought talks they're preparing, or I would have said, well, workshop a phrase, a 3-part phrase. So it's one thing on my public speaking talk. I show them some famous examples in history of the power of 3. There are so many famous moments in the history of public speaking that involve 3. Okay, you can have it in the Gettysburg Address. There's so many, either 3s or contrasts, like ask not what your country can do for you, things like that. Now, but I thought we might be running out of time. So I decided to bring something. So like I said, if we were in a workshop, I'd allow some time, and we might workshop one together in the group. Like somebody did a lovely thing about the importance of universal education. So, speeches, Juliana said, what does that mean, speeches in threes? Okay, government of the people, by the people, for the people. Winston Churchill, dogs look up to us, cats look down on us, pigs treat us as equals. One of his funnier lines, I think that's quite good. Aristophanes has got a character. You have all the characteristics of a popular politician, a horrible voice, bad breeding, and a vulgar manner. That was 2,500 years BCE. I get people to date that, and they often say, is that like modern? So there you go. So they're just some examples. I've got one for us. I'll put it in the chat. I just decided I would choose one. And who more appropriate, considering yoga and our respect for traditions and our acknowledgement of the Indian roots of yoga? Not that I know what his attitude to yoga was, and that's Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, so, okay, I'm going to put here, happiness. I'm going to write this is when, some of you might know this quote, happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. But that happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. So I either get people to make a statement, and then they can maybe have 3 reasons for it. Maybe it's a structure you can use, the 3-question structure. What precisely is very good when you've got a boring presentation topic at university? What precisely is A? How does it apply to our subject B? And what are the implications of it for our whatever it might be? That's a very, very good model for people like to break up a talk that could just be an information dump. But I know that's not our focus today. So what I do, I get people doing that very slow breathing. I do emphasize that you need to breathe for what you need to say. So the principle here, so this might not be obviously be vocal yoga, but it's completely inspired by our exploration of breath, by pranayama in all my yoga practice. So it's absolutely in there, even though it might not seem obviously a vocal yoga exercise. So can I get a volunteer? Can somebody volunteer to do that sentence flow? I'm just going to show you what I do, and then we might do a few of these in the workshop towards the end. Okay. Okay. I'll type both of you, and then I might give you another one. Okay. Okay. How about we do that? All right. Okay. Juliana, do you want to go first?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So. All right, so this is what I get people to do. And it takes a little bit of time. That's why I would say, David, we run out of time. I feel bad, but we might still have time to do it. But I just wanted to show you one person. Now, this is, like I said, the beginning of thinking about connecting thought and breath. I had a brilliant teacher at Victorian College of the Arts Drama School, Geraldine Cook, who actually retired, I think, the next year. And she said, you get all these different messages in different voice schools. It might be, in fact, Rockford Sampson, editor of the Vasta Journal, he jokes about the breath wars. It seems ridiculous, doesn't it? There are the breath wars in teaching voice. It can incite very, very strong disagreements with people. But she was very practical, and she said, whatever you learn about breath, and you might find that different schools will have things they might disagree. But when it comes to speaking, anyway, singing, I'll leave to other people. You need to connect thinking with breathing. And I think it's a very, very good principle. Because also, too, the breath you take in will be dependent on what your brain knows it needs to say. So the breath that you inhale for a few short sentences is not going to be the same for a classical actor doing a huge sonnet or an opera singer hitting a bye. Thank you, Marion. Thank you so much. Light to you. Thank you.
Oh, bye, Marianne.
Bye. Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. I just have to go, but I'm having a great time and I really don't want to go. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Lovely to see you again.
Bye. Bye.
Yes. So I something I think I learned from Anne-Marie Speeders and Estill. She said, remember, when you take breath in, what does that breath wants to do? What it wants to do? Well, it wants to get out again. Okay. We don't store breath in the body. So that's important to get that going. But then, so I know that sometimes when you teach people so-called deeper breathing, sometimes they can think that every single breath we ever take has to be our maximum inhalation level, which of course isn't true either. Do you know what I mean? So there's a balance there between people who are used to very, very shallow breathing and other breathing. So Juliana, what I'll do, they'll often have a before we go, I'll let you ask anything. So what we'll do is
Okay, just write a note of what I was going to say because I'm worried off.
Oh, sorry, okay.
Or can I just say it?
Yeah.
I was going to say that so I studied with someone called Bathsheba Garnett. She's very old now. I don't know if you know her, but she did a lot to do with voice and thought connection. And recently, well, she gave me permission to teach her process actually, which I'm very excited about. But recently, because of vocal yoga and this sort of more somatic course I'm doing, it's really fascinating because the thought itself, so when you're full body listening, you're receiving, you're having the experience here, and then you're looking down to see what the thought is of what you're going to say. But what starts to happen is that if you're present with both, the thought will actually shape how you take the breath in, because you'll be led to a certain through line of thinking that the character has.
Absolutely.
And actually helps you enter in a sensory way the experience that character's having. So it actually helps build circumstance. Anyway, sorry, that was just
absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. And I'll just say
voice it before I forgot, because I was like,
no, that's wonderful. In fact, I would like to learn more about that and use that extension. So bear in mind, this was developed for people who, the notion of any of this is completely new, but I found that this is an instruction they could follow. And what I also found is that
I'm curious.
even though there's lots more we can do with a voice, I think I've got so many more tricks up my sleeve with you all. I think about these people, just getting them to do this, you won't believe the difference it made in the voice and the power behind the words. Okay, so all we're doing, okay, so could you just kind of rattle through that like a lot of people did out of that Gandhi quote? Say, people say, oh, hi, everybody. Today we're looking at this and we're looking at this and we're looking at this. Because that's how most people present to me. They just go, oh, hi, everyone. Today my presentation's on something and we're going to look at all the things and we're going to do, so that they'll just rattle through like that. And everyone's sitting there thinking, okay, so do you want to say that a little bit like that?
What is the quote? What is it I'm saying?
It's in the chat. Can you see that? That Gandhi quote I put in the chat. So I owe people...
happiness is what you think, what you say, and what. Okay.
Okay, so just go through that like an ordinary person might, without thinking about it too much. Just say it.
Yeah. Happiness is what you think. Happiness is when what you think, what you say, what you do are in harmony.
Okay, and now there's nothing add about that. That's how normal people tend to say it. All right, so this time, and you've got, actually here it's quite good because you've got the punctuation. There is actually a really interesting voice speech exercise where you talk softly through your piece of text, and every time you hit a piece of punctuation, you stop and take a breath, which is quite interesting. I've done that before. It's quite a good preparation exercise for actors. All right, so Julian, you know how we were breathing slowly? So this takes a little bit of time. We were breathing slowly. What I invite you to do is this time do that again, but between each one, let yourself breathe slowly 3 times. So you do something like happiness is when what you think. So you do it 3 times. Then when you're ready to speak on the 3rd breath, say the other one. Okay, so let's just take it from there.
This is really great. Okay. Happiness is what you think. What you say. And what you do are in harmony.
Okay, now, great. Now let's do it again. This time, change it to twice. So just shorten the gap. Just do 2 breaths between each section.
Okay. Happiness is when what you think. What you say.
Now you can probably guess what's happening next. So this is what we finish on, everybody. So let's just do it. When you're ready, reflexively, like when it's just breathe between each section. But now we're in a more conversational, but you give yourself time to let that thought inform that next breath for each section. So this time, speak to us.
Like with Bathsheba, but this is so perfect because this is like the how to do that.
Oh God, well you do, and then we'll finish off. We'll talk. I'd love to know more about that. So let's do that. Okay.
Happiness is when what you think, what you say, what you do are in harmony.
Okay, give us that now. Didn't Julian, that sounded fabulous, and it didn't sound performy. And I have had all these people who are very tentative speakers. All I get them to do is breathing, that nice slow breath, and then shortening the gap, and they connect with that. And the voices improve beyond all belief. And these are people who are often very, very nervous to speak in public. So I don't say this isn't a definitive, there's lots of things we do with the breath, and I'm learning, and I learned so much from Linda's session. But this is what I say, this is my pranayama inspired beginning. I think, but I also think too that I decided to test it myself. When you've maybe got a few really key phrases in a talk you're delivering, it can be a really nice settling, almost like a meditation. Like I will meditate in the breath between the thoughts, and then something about that plants those words very powerfully in your mind, and that they're just there, and you know that whatever else I miss. So I would love anyone, more comments to you, Juliana, anybody, Linda, I know I was, when I saw you there, oh, Linda knows her breathing. So this is my modest little start to breathing. But anyway, anyone like to?
It's so fantastic. I love it because it really connects you immediately to your body rather than worrying about how you're going to say the words and what they mean. It builds this trust in you, because when you focus on breathing, your tension's on breathing, you're out of your head immediately, the process, because it also changes the way your nervous system is. You're interacting with your nervous system, right? You're grounding yourself more. And then when you look at the text, the next thought almost enters in with the breath rather than you having to decipher what the next thought is intellectually. So it really works in such a great way with the body's intelligence. So great.
Look, and you know, isn't it funny? That's one of the ones that's so simple. I mean,
I'm so glad I volunteered for that, because it's exactly where my work is. So
oh, well, I would love to know more. I'd love to, and that's what's wonderful about our Sangha, is that I think such a, and I just want to say, if there's anything today, everybody, anything that was useful, I donate anything I work on to the vocal yoga community. So please feel free to, in fact, I'll put my email, if anybody wants any references to books or anything, hang on, I'll put my email in the chat, and I love to have contact from anyone, and hopefully not too long. We might even get some Bruce. Yeah, just check I spelled it right, because if you spell an email wrong. Anyway, but anyone open up any comments or questions or anything. It's funny, in Spanish they say, and on tour I had a friend who went to Buenos Aires and they showed the opera, and he said, so any questions or doubts? And I've got a Spanish friend that said, I know the word they're thinking of. It's a word in Spanish, things which are not clear, but they kept stopping and saying, so does anybody have any doubts? Like, I don't think you know what you're talking about or something, but they mean, is there anything not clear? Which I thought was quite an interesting translation, but anyway, anyone?
Bruce, will you send me that list of books so I have it?
I absolutely will. Anything I've, oh, and by the way, even though it's not really a yoga, he's got a very old-fashioned view of voice teachers. On public speaking, if you have to teach people about this book on all things of public speaking, oratory and everything, Lend Me Your Ears by Professor Max Atkinson, I'll put that on the list. This would be one of the books I would choose. The other one is, it's very modern, the head of TED has got a wonderful guide, TED Talk Guide to Public Speaking. There'll be my two, and I've got, you can imagine, voice, speech, my shelves heave with them. But yeah, they would be my desert island. Oh, who would I teach public speaking to on a desert island? But anyway. But yes, any questions or anything, I'd love to hear from, I don't know, but I packed in exactly on the time what I planned.
Hey. Bruce, I had a question regarding the yeah.
Yep.
You said you have actors doing it silently.
Oh, low volume, not completely silent.
volume.
What I mean is you can do that. I was saying that you could do it. Okay, you can't stand in a theater and go, mommy, more Barbie, or whatever any of those old fashioned, like they always have in the films, actors are doing when they warm up. They always have those jokes in movies. But you can wipe us quiet, like you're getting your engine revving just nicely. Like young people don't understand, like when I was a kid, our car often did start on cold winter mornings. And we were getting it revved. See, modern cars start much easier, so younger people don't remember those days. But it's a little bit like that with, you can do it. A warm up doesn't have to be so yeah, it's a very useful thing to have, and it's calming. You could do it very quietly, waiting, to be called into a job interview. No one needs to.
Right.
Yeah. So it's quite nice to get everything energized very, very gently, but it's also
yes. So I misunderstood that you said to do it silently. And what I wanted to just add was that it's kind of like the la 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 la, which you do silently in the Alexander technique, which in and out, you can do the la la la. And then it dawned on me, thinking it was silent, that the memory of where the voice seems to then be buzzing and all that, like David said, it was that like sparkler in his mouth, that you could also do this silently, like in the breathing coordination exercise, where it's just silent. So you have unpressured air exhaling, which is beautiful. So I love how all these just start to mesh together. It's a lovely fabric. So thank you for that.
That's awesome, Linda.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it sets a mouth posture, and then you're ready.
Right. And you have a memory versus a positioning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have a question, and this is kind of like not really, it's kind of off topic from what you had done today, so I hope that's okay. Heather had mentioned that you had some experience with yin yoga.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes.
A bit.
Okay.
Yep. I've done a training course in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just did a little training on yin yoga, and I was really thinking about, like, if you have like maybe a couple of statements, obviously it might be a big topic, but what you found, or if you've incorporated any sort of the vocal yoga principles into more of the yin style of yoga, and what that kind of looked for you, or what you discovered or anything. Did you have any experience with that?
Well, to be honest, Natalie, I love what yin yoga's given me. But I found of all the ones I've done, on one hand, I really value it, and I do. For example, I'm in a routine now. I do yoga every single day, and I've never been doing that every single day. Even I have changed like this, and I've got it. And in fact, today I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and just got straight on the mat before having coffee. What do? I do reclined pigeon. Even if I don't feel like doing my yoga, I get down into reclined pigeon, I got from yin. I find traditional pigeon, if anyone knows that position, a lot of people find that actually quite difficult, and it's difficult on a lot of people's knees and everything. But reclined pigeon, if somebody can get on a mat, they can do it, and so it opens me up the holds along. But when I did the training course, I did add some sound to stuff. I don't find yin is the one that I'm inclined to add as much sound to as other ones. Even strangely restorative, I got more with humming. It suited it. But I believe you can add sound to anything. I expect maybe because the holds are longer. I'm not sure. So I'm still thinking about that. But yeah, I can't help myself. Any yoga I go to, I'm always now, because of you, Heather, and vocal yoga, I'm always thinking, how can I sound? I'm always, what do I say? Sonnet, I don't know. sonatizing, make up a word, I don't know, I will make up a
Okay,
sound.
well, if you make, like, if you have any like big revelations or whatever
I
about the
will,
yin,
I'll think about that. And it's like I said, so I use yin. I don't think I'm going to maybe use a lot of yin in my teaching, but I love it. It's a good one. Yin's a good one for people to recommend in your life if you think they benefit from yoga, but they might find some other forms a bit strange. It's quite a good, I think a lot of people find maybe some other forms of yoga difficult, because I think that if you don't feel very confident about moving, vinyasa classes and stuff, they're very intimidating for people. Whereas yoga, the asanas are always, generally fairly simple, but even then, they're always adaptable. That's a philosophy of yin teachers, that everything is adaptable to suit you, and it's always something you can put there, and holds along. Because it's working on a fascial level, not just on a muscular one as well. And a ligament sort of level. So Natalie, that question, I've actually got that in my mind too, because I realized when I was doing these, when I was doing Hatha training, that I probably don't add sound to yin as much, but that doesn't mean I might not down the line. And I did add some sound when I did I'm trying to remember what I did. I did add some, I did vocal yoga size a little bit, my yin course, that segment I did there. So yeah, but no, I'll think about that. And yeah.
thank you.
So anything, Natalie, you want, any questions? I'll tell you what sounds I have that go with those.
Okay,
Oh,
sure. I mean, I was just kind of thinking in general. I mean, what is? I think, sorry, I was looking. Somebody put something in the chat, but I'm on my iPad. So I can hard time sending the chat. Great. I don't want to take up too much time on this. It was just a question that I've just been thinking about and wondering.
I've got a book. Hang on. I'll just,
So I've done a lot of yin yoga in my life, and I actually have sounds for them
Oh, you do?
too. Yeah.
Oh, well, I want to know those. This book's quite, Yin Sights by Bernie Clark is quite a good.
Great.
You know,
Love that book.
Yeah, that's really quite a good book. Yes, Heather, I'd like to. I know I've done a little bit of it too, but I'd love to know your sounds with the yin things. And they say yin. Paul Grilly, who developed it, he trained my trainer. She's a good friend of his, and he said 20 is plenty. Was one of his. It's like 20 asanas could get you all the benefits of yoga. He said you only need it, yes, 20 is plenty. Was one of his simple lines. So, yeah.
Have to go because we're 7 minutes over time. So, but yeah, we could do a kula. I'll bring in my yin sounds. I have so much more to vocal yoga that you guys haven't even learned yet, which is actually going to be in vocal yoga 2, which I'm finally going to do. So people will be excited about that.
When's that?
I'm looking at the fall, this fall.
Okay.
Yeah. So, everybody, it's so nice to meet you, Bruce. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. This is amazing.
Yes.
And
Thank you for coming, everybody. It's great to.
I love what you wrote, Juliana. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Juliana, that's how I saw it too. Basically, yeah.
All right. So I'm going to stop recording.